Hey guys, welcome back to the Football Diary podcast. I'm back with Myles and Dave. We're talking all things England today. Gareth Southgate's made his decision. 26 men have been selected for the Euros, and we're here to pick the hell out of it, basically. I've had two riveting games of football that have just played, two amazing 1-0 victories. Myles is raising his eyebrow because he knows I'm being sarcastic. It was a bit dull, but we'll talk over those nonetheless, what they mean for the squad and the potential starting 11 as well. And also the predictions for the tournament itself, who we think are the favourites, what the path might look like and things like that. So start with you, Myles. What do you reckon? England squad's been announced. Any surprises? Anything you're disappointed about? Anyone you think really shouldn't be in there? I mean, we knew the majority of the players anyway, but now you've seen it. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's pretty sharp. There aren't many players that I think missed out that you would say really, really need to be there. I think once Trent had to drop out, I think there was an argument over who could have taken that final spot, and it's gone to Ben White. I probably wouldn't have given it to him myself. I think that's probably there because there's doubts over Maguire still, obviously, but I probably would have looked more to either Ward-Prowse or Watkins. But yeah, I'm not too unhappy with the squad. You never want a player to get injured, so it is a shame for Trent. I thought it was a real shame that Southgate kind of gave into the pressure, and that's what it felt like by picking the 4 right backs. He kind of just didn't want to displease anyone or have it talked about in the media that he'd left one of them out. So he took all 4, which was never necessary. I mean, yesterday, he didn't even start a right back, and we had that many in the squad. All right, Kyle Walker and Reece James weren't there, but Trippier sat on the bench, and they played Ben Godfrey at right back. So who knows what he's thinking with that. But no, the squad fills me with optimism when it comes to the top end, and then not so much after that. But we knew that was going to be the case anyway. The friendlies were not exactly the most exciting affairs, but there are a few positives to take from it. Super Jackie Grealish being man of the match yesterday. Again, he's brilliant. So I'm hoping he'll get his start now. He's definitely earned it. Bellingham probably gave himself a good shout of starting some games as well. Henderson did not look fully fit still and still looked a bit rattled. I mean, the penalty miss was very frustrating for him to be there to be a good character and a good leader and take the ball off a striker that really would have been nice to get him on the score sheet before the tournament. Bit silly to me. You never know how much you're going to need Calvert-Lewin. And the last thing you want to do is wind him up, I think. I thought it was really odd that he took that penalty off him. The only player on the pitch who's ever missed a penalty for England as well. And he thought, yeah, I've got this. Didn't rate that, but I don't know. What can you do? I would have had Ward-Prowse over Henderson anyway. But yeah. Southgate obviously trusts him. He's there for some sort of reason. Other than that, I don't think the squad's too controversial. I think it's just down to what we can do at the tournament now. And actually, maybe we would be better off having a bit of a slower start anyway and not topping the group, because it would put us in a pretty difficult position if we did. And we've been there before, haven't we?
Yeah, I don't think Gareth Southgate's in a position again to sort of plot his route to the final like he did in the World Cup. But he looking at that side of the draw, is looking like he's going to have a difficult path, whatever happens, really, if we qualify. But yeah, I agree with what you say about the squad. The final squad selection was so light in midfield. And I think Jordan Henderson is not the finished, fully fit article that we know he can be. I don't know what he's going to provide to the squad and to the team. It's like Roy Keane joked about in the coverage itself. Is he there to sort of do card tricks or sing a song? Who knows? But yeah, why James Ward-Prowse is not there as well, I'm shocked, because I thought he did really well. He was a tidy cameo from him, I thought. So his free kicks actually were something else. I thought he whipped a fair few very dangerous balls in, which I think would have really played to England's strengths if he was in the squad. But yeah, unlucky to miss out. I see the logic in taking another defender. Baffled he took 4 right backs at the start, and we said that, didn't we? But excited about the front end massively. As you say, Myles, Jack Grealish is class, different class. He was fantastic. He was in both games in the friendlies. So there's positivity there. I'm excited. Dave, how are you feeling about it, mate?
I don't know really how to feel about it, to be honest. I think there's a lot of questions. I don't think Southgate even knows his best team, for one. And it's certainly not going to be helped by the last couple of games that he's had. He's not even had a full selection to choose from, really, obviously, on the back of the 2 European finals. So I feel as though I don't know what his first 11 is going to be. I think that's the main thing for me, is that it's going to be a disjointed first 3 games, I think we'll probably get the results that we need, but I don't think it will be particularly pretty on the eye, unfortunately. Taking from what we're
judging by the friendly games, I think he had a fairly fairly big gamble in some of the players just starting the game that weren't even going into the tournament anyway. So I was surprised he started someone like Lingard. I mean, fair play to him for having the balls to kind of go, yeah, do you know what? I'll stick around the squad and play. But I really think he should have experimented, like you said, with the starting 11, Dave, for those 2 friendlies. And he didn't really. There was no shape that we were going to recognise with the players. And like we were talking about as well with right backs, didn't even start with a right back in the last game, did he? So, and then he brought Trippier on at left back eventually. So it's a bit of a strange one.
I found the selection really weird for the 2 friendlies. One of the things that I thought was really odd was he decided not to involve any of the United players in the first game. No other nation did that. The same night, Pogba was playing for France. Dan James played for Wales. I know he didn't play as much of the final as some of the other players, but was still there. I think McTominay was playing for Scotland as well. So England seemed to be the only one who cared about that. And now you look at it and think, half those players haven't had a warm-up before the tournament at all. The last time that some of those players were on the pitch, they were losing a Champions League final. So you wonder what their state of mind is going to be. I thought it was a really odd time to set those friendlies up and not call those players up.
Yeah, I agree. I think the balance of the team was weird. I don't think it was anywhere near the starting 11 he's going to go for. But I think that's the question fans are asking. What is the starting 11? Dave, have you got any preference as to what you think the starting 11 should be now you've seen a few of the fringe players in action?
Again, it's if, what's, and maybes, isn't it, really? Especially with kind of relying on Maguire to be fit. And then it's those front repositions. Obviously, Kane chooses himself, and then you've got those 2 either side of him. It's whether it's going to be Grealish or Foden, or so I don't think he'll play both of them together. I think it'll be one or the other.
I disagree. I think I've seen the setup for. Was it the most recent game where he put? No, it was the first game against Austria. He played Bellingham and Rice in the middle, and then in front of them he played 3 players. I think it was Grealish, Foden, and Mount, and then Kane up front. Maybe that's kind of the setup I can see.
I think they can if it's a back 3 and you've got Luke Shaw or whoever you're going to have the wing back positions to provide that width, because I don't feel as though we will get the same kind of width in those overlapping runs if we play both Foden and Grealish, who like to come in and find space in those pockets. So again, it's going to be as soon as we come up against a pretty decent team, I think he'll revert to a back 3 because I just don't think he's got the trust in that.
But he didn't do that in either of the friendlies, and that seems mad to me.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, Dave. I think we will see England play with a back 3 at some point, but he's not tried that out. He's not going to try out half the players that he's actually going to take, and also not tried out the right system. I can't really see what the point in any of that was. All you did was see if Jordan Henderson was fit, maybe see if Grealish was fit, and he managed to get 90 minutes yesterday, which is good. But other than that, what's it achieved? It does worry me that he won't start Grealish. And he has to start.
He has to.
I think he would think about playing him as a number 10, but then Mason Mount will come in, and we all know how much everyone loves Mason Mount. And rightfully so, he's a great player. But I have this horrible feeling he's not going to start Grealish, and he's going to be someone he brings on for impact off the bench. But I think that's another reason that I think it's mad that Ward-Prowse wasn't going. Grealish said it himself. I saw a quote from Grealish saying that one of the things he really enjoys about being with England is he does get fouled a lot. He's used to it by now. But England have got dead ball specialists that can capitalise on that, where Villa don't really have that. Although apparently James Ward-Prowse is on his way to us now, weirdly, which I'll be quite excited about.
Yeah.
But yeah, you lose Trent from the squad, and then you don't take Ward-Prowse. So that suggests to me that maybe Trippier is going to start and take free kicks, because England love a set piece. England love scoring goals from set pieces. Shaw can take a corner. We saw that for United this season. But other than that, I did think that was a weird miss out. So I think Grealish probably won't start, sadly.
Which is ridiculous, because he was man of the match twice in a row. I think that's crazy. Yeah. While you're talking about Villa players, Myles, Tyrone Mings, what did you make of his 2 performances?
I feel like Tyrone Mings got a really harsh rap over these 2 games and was getting a lot of criticism for yeah, it wasn't necessarily the most assured performances you've ever seen, but he's playing with a new centre back for the first time, so it's going to take some time to develop that understanding. He won't be playing alongside them for England come the first game. It will be Stones, and I do think Mings will start that game. I'm pretty sure.
Really. I don't think Maguire's going to be fit, and I think the fact that he's a left-footed defender as well makes a huge difference. I do think he looked underconfident and a bit nervous, and it had a bit stage fright. It was a bit shaky at times. But again, why didn't Southgate start him with Stones for one of the games? Because that was probably going to be the starting pairing. It's mad.
I would have called the Man City and Chelsea players up for the last one. I'm not really sure why they didn't. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the other players would have linked up with their national squads by now. So I did think that was odd. They'll be in training this week. We have the luxury of not playing until Sunday. So we do have a few days of them getting together, which will be good for them. But no, I don't think Mings did anything to make me think, oh, please don't play him. But maybe I'm biased. The challenge he made in the Austria game was a bit suspect. I'm not really sure what he was trying to do there, other than take a player out. But I think he'll start still. I think he's got the attributes that England will need. He's a very committed man. And if he can ease those nerves and just get settled, then he's exactly what you want in international football. Someone who will put their body on the line every 5 seconds. If you look at the amount of shots that him and Konsa have blocked this season, he's always willing to just be there. So I do think he'll be all right. I'm pretty confident he'll keep his starting place for the first game now.
Well, it's like you said about his appearance in the Villa backline. He is so vocal, isn't he? And you could see in the absence of anyone like Maguire or Stones, he was absolutely taking the lead on that back line, which was brilliant to see. So he's playing to his strengths there. I just do think he had a little bit of stage fright, which worries me, I'll be honest.
And 2 clean sheets.
But 2 clean sheets, against pretty decent opponents, let's face it. They weren't that bad. It's not like playing San Marino, for example, and only scraping a 1-0 win. They weren't too bad. They set up to frustrate, and they did. And friendlies, you can never read too much into them, really, anyway. However, Southgate should have had some kind of partnership form in there at centre-back. In the midfield, I thought it was a bit disjointed. Dave, I'll go to you next. Have we learned anything from these friendlies, and who was like the winners and the losers from the 2 games?
Again, I think it's difficult to say. The winners, it's all down to who he decides to choose. Like Myles says, Grealish has played really well, stood out in both of those 2 warm-ups, and we don't even know if he's going to start in that first 11 from the beginning of the tournament. So I think it's been good for. Obviously, we brought Ben White. I actually think he did quite well. Quite a good game, and I think he's quite versatile as well. He's played defensive midfield before for Leeds as well in their championship season. I feel as though he might be another option if we struggle for injuries in those areas. He's good with the ball, so. I think he's done really well out of it. I think we're all thinking, he could be out. He was going to be one of the exclusions, and obviously he's benefited from Trent being injured. To be honest, we say that Southgate, gave in to pressure, and I think that was pretty much the case. But it's kind of ended up with egg on his face a little bit. It's a little bit hard. But Trent's now gotten injured and he's not in the squad, and he's kind of had to. I don't know. It doesn't seem like. I don't actually know whether we needed Ben White in. I felt like we need another midfielder and another striker.
Do you not think that's worked out perfectly for Southgate? Because he's now not taking Trent, but it wasn't his fault, and it wasn't him that made the decision. As far as everyone's concerned, Southgate wanted Trent. And now he's picked up this injury that's not a serious injury. He's going to be back by the start of the season. Enough to take him out the Euros, though. And now we don't need to take the 4 right-backs. And the media conversation over, will Trent get picked, is gone. And it's not Southgate's fault. I actually think he's kind of got a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card with that one.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have played there, would he? Trent wouldn't have played.
No.
He wouldn't have been starting right-back. So, again, I don't know. It's a bit of a... mind boggler, that one.
I agree with you, Myles. I think he has got out of jail a little bit with Trent being not on the selection list now. He's not even going to have the conversation about whether he should be picked or not. And that was a difficult conversation to have had because he's been one of the best right backs in the country for a couple of years now, you know. However, I do think his failure to pick another midfielder will come back and haunt him maybe in the latter stages, because if you lose Declan Rice, is Calvin Phillips good enough to step up? You know, if you lose, well, Jordan Henderson, I'm not even picking as a player that's available really, because he didn't look anything like ready to perform, did he? I think his fitness was well short. So if there's any injuries to any of those actual midfield players, he's going to struggle.
Even if Henderson was fit, would you pick him over Bellingham?
I didn't have him as a squad member.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. Yeah, Jude Bellingham's another one actually who really impressed.
Yeah,
I think he's a great balance to someone like Declan Rice in midfield. He's like an all-action sort of box-to-box player, isn't he? I think he's well beyond his years. He doesn't look 17 at all when he's got the ball at his feet. He's such a great player. He excites me, I'll admit. And I think whoever plays in front of him, if he does start the game, doesn't really matter. I feel like he's a safe pair of hands in midfield. I really do. More than Jordan Henderson, that's for sure.
I think
Go on, Dave, sorry.
I think one positive, what England have got, and especially in attack, they've got kind of different dimensions of which they can attack. If we think back to the Spain game, I know it was a few years ago now, when we were leading 3-0 at half time, we kind of hit them on the counter. Obviously, it was Rashford and Sterling, wasn't it? Obviously, Harry Kane up front. And we were 3-0 at half time. And I feel as though that might be the way to go, probably. You know, I still feel like we're lacking in midfield. I don't think we will control it in midfield.
No, but I don't think we're the kind of team that's going to dominate possession either. I think we'll make a quick counter, won't we?
That might be how he tends to approach those kind of games with the quicker players in the wide areas.
Yeah,
and the hit on the break, because they've got the capability to do that.
The problem we're going to have with that is the more we lose out in midfield, the more you're going to start to see a frustrated Harry Kane just drop incredibly deep, like we saw with Rooney for years. And then you go to hit on a break and you get your wide men further forward and you've got no one to serve to. Kane's not where he should be. I do worry about that a little bit.
I think the difference now between this team and the team 2018 is that we actually have energy in midfield. You know, we're not left with Eric Dyer, you know, in that defensive midfield spot. We've got players like Mason Mount. We've got Foden. We'll see if Foden might even play back deeper in midfield. He might not actually operate off of that right side. So
I think Mount might do that.
Yeah.
No, I would definitely find a way of making sure that you had Mount, Foden and Grealish all in the same midfield. I really would. And one of them's got to play off Harry Kane, haven't they? Because I think we're all accepting that Jadon Sancho is going to start to the right of Harry Kane, pretty much, right? Raheem Sterling's probably going to miss out, but it will be for maybe Grealish or Foden on the left, I think. But I would love to see them in the same team. Will it work? Yeah, potentially. Would Southgate gamble on it? Nah, not a chance. In fact, I still worry he's going to play two very defensive-minded midfielders, if I'm honest.
Against Croatia, I think he will.
Yeah. Which would be a shame, because, I mean, who would you say is a defensive-minded midfielder? Would it be Rice and Phillips in your head?
Or Henderson, maybe, if he really wants to bank on him.
If he did that, I think he'd lose the respect of a lot of players, though. Because, I mean, what's that saying about those players that have earned that place, you know? Has Jordan Henderson earned that place? Maybe over a few seasons he thinks he's worthy of it. But if we're going on form, which is how a squad like this should be picked, not a chance. He's not been anywhere near top form because he's not had a chance. It's crazy.
I don't think so.
Any other sort of predictions for who we might pick in the starting 11 then? Because you saying Croatia, we might play it quite conservatively, Myles.
Yeah.
But what does that mean for the makeup of the attack if he does that? If he does have, say, Phillips and Rice holding a shield in the front for the back four, who does he play in front of them?
It all is going to depend on how many defenders he plays. I think he probably would like to play a back three, and Maguire being out might stop that for a while because he doesn't rely on the other centre-backs enough to pick them. Although saying that, he'll probably play Kyle Walker there, won't he? It's so hard to call because it all depends on that formation. And the fact that we're 4 or 5 days away from the first game, and none of us know what formation England are going to play, let alone what 11 they're going to play. That worries me a bit. I think I think we'll get through our group like pretty comfortably, but I can't see us going deep in the tournament when Southgate has these players but doesn't seem to have a plan, and that worries me. It felt like we had a plan at the World Cup. We knew that we were going to cash in on physicality and technique of set pieces. That was our way of breaking teams down. It worked. And then obviously we had a very favourable route. That is nearly impossible in this Euros because it condenses so quickly. And if you perform well at your group stage, you're going to face someone else who performed well, which is an interesting dynamic. We're looking at, if we win our group, we're going to have either France, Hungary, Germany or Portugal. I said one of them for the fun of saying it, really. We all know that that's going to be a tough tie. So I don't know about the attacking lineup, but I feel like he is going to be a bit more reserved and just try and get by the first game. So I don't necessarily think we'll have the mad attacking flair of playing Mount, Foden and Grealish. I think it'll be Foden next to Kane on the left and Sancho on the right, and then probably Mount just behind Kane. And then maybe he'll look to Grealish in the second half, but who knows? When
you say Mount just behind them, are you thinking Phillips and Rice then behind him?
No, I don't think it'll be Phillips and Rice. I think it will either be Rice and Henderson, or if Henderson really isn't fit, then I do think he'll trust you, Bellingham. I don't think Phillips is going to start many games, I'll be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I do think he'll stick to a 4-3-3 for the first game. And I do think it will be a midfield of Rice, Bellingham to play it conservatively, which I'd be happy with, to be fair, and then Mason Mount just in front. It would be such a shame to see Grealish cut from that starting 11 because he deserves to be there. I would probably start him ahead of Foden at the minute, just on the basis of how he's been the last couple of games and also fatigue creeping in. I think he's been out for a while, hasn't he, Jack Grealish, but you couldn't tell. I thought he controlled the attack really well. He drew the fouls brilliantly. He's such a clever player. And I'm surprised to see how much space he creates for those around him. People follow him. Defenders follow him wherever he goes in that final third. And that's such an asset to have as an attacking team.
That's been his joy for Villa all season. And that's why it looked like someone like Barkley would fit in really well. Because all of a sudden, when the players were flocking to where Grealish was, you had someone to use the space. Well, it looks like Buendia's coming to us now, which I'm really excited about because we've got that player now. People will move to wherever Grealish is, and we've got another thing for them to worry about. It's fantastic. England have got loads of that. If you get three players following Grealish on that left-hand side, the right back, the right mid, and then one of the centre-backs moves over or one of the centre mids, you open up so much space for the likes of Mount and Kane. And that's who doesn't want that, really? I think he will control the game more than Foden would. Foden is a great footballer and will definitely have his time with England. He's very good on a counter-attack in particular. But Grealish can pick the ball up and just walk with it, basically, and carry it through people and move your team forward rather than just relying on that last little break. To me, that's priceless. I'll be gutted if he doesn't start. They've given him the number 7 shirt as well. Which I think
that's got to be a nod to what he intends to do, hopefully.
I know this is such a small point, but another thing I didn't get about the friendlies, Grealish was wearing the number 10 for both of the friendlies, but he's got the number 7 shirt for the squad.
Well, I think during the friendlies, he had to just play the initial squad he had because Lingard was there as well, Ward-Prowse was there, Godfrey was there. So there's a few players that were never going to be in the squad. I think they already had set numbers for the friendlies, so I wouldn't read too much into that. But I think being the number 7 for a major tournament looks like he's going to trust him to play or start quite a few games, hopefully.
Maybe, but then you have to bear in mind, people like Mason Mount, he has his own number, doesn't he? There are a few players in the team that have their own numbers outside of the conventional 11. So it's not like the tournaments gone by where you 1 to 11 was probably your starting lineup. Well, Mason Mount's number 18. We all know he's going to start. Like Mount will start most games because Southgate loves him. So whether your number 7 is sat on the bench, who knows?
Yeah. I know it's hard to call, but Dave, if you were going to try and sort of say this is who I think Southgate's going to go for, rather than who you think you would pick, what would you say? What if you were going to read Southgate's mind? Would you predict he's going to play for the attacking sort of 6, if you like?
I don't think that Foden and Grealish will start in the same team. I think it'll be one or the other, and then I think it'll be Sterling on one side and Sancho on the other, vice versa. Any of those 4 players. I don't know if Rashford will start. Will start at all. I still think he's lacking in match fitness. I feel like he's still being derailed a little bit by niggly injuries. Even though I didn't think he had that bad a game actually in this previous game, but I do feel as though it will be one or the other. I don't think it will be both.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that, to be fair. Do you think Harry Kane benefits from having this many attacking players around him, Myles, or do you reckon it actually hurts him because they're all quite driven to go for goal themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing when you look at the kind of creative player that Harry Kane has become this season as well. He's got outlets, and that works for him at Spurs. For all of Spurs' faults, they've got some very good attacking players, and we saw Kane link up with Son really, really well this season. So if he has that outlet with England, I think that could be really beneficial. You looked back at the 2018 World Cup, and everyone will remember that moment against Croatia where he should have squared the ball. Harry Kane in 2021 squares that ball, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's still a very clinical man, and he's still someone who wants the goals and will finish from anywhere. But I do think he's added a new level of intelligence to his game where he's all about goals any way they come, not necessarily just banging them in himself. So I think he definitely benefits from them. I just worry that then he goes the other way and does a Wayne Rooney and goes, okay, you guys stay there, let me go and get the ball. And that's not what you want, Kane. As good as he is at providing that final pass, he's the most lethal finisher I've seen in an England shirt for a really long time. I think more than Rooney in many ways. If he doesn't break Rooney's record, I'll be amazed. So you want him somewhere where he can finish those chances, not dropping too deep. That would be really sad to see our talismanic striker do that again.
Yeah, I think someone like Phil Foden will definitely be more beneficial than Jack Grealish to Harry Kane. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. I think Foden will look to play in Kane as many opportunities as he can, whereas Grealish will just look to find space for others, whoever that may be, whether that's Kane or someone else. Having said that, like you said, Harry Kane is not the Harry Kane of 2018. He is the top assist maker and goal scorer in the Premier League this season, which is mental. That's such an all-round improvement in his game. And he's been robbed of the Player of the Year award, I think, to be fair. I think he's better than Kevin De Bruyne this year, and he deserves to have got some recognition for it. But I think he's gone past looking at personal accolades as much now. I think he's trying to maybe get actual trophies, you know? So I think if he thinks to himself, do I want a golden boot again at this tournament or the trophy itself, he'd 100% go for the trophy itself, even if it meant he didn't score that many goals, which is great. You want that in your team, don't you, really, leading your line?
Sort of. You do want your number 9 to be focused on getting some goals, though. I think
there's goals everywhere.
Is there, though? If you look at the England squad, there are a lot of players there still really yet to score many goals. Sterling goes on very, very dry runs for England. Rashford's got a few goals, but he's probably not going to start games. Sancho's not really scored many. Grealish hasn't scored yet. Foden's not scored yet, I don't think. So there should be goals everywhere. But Harry Kane's the only one who's done it constantly for England. So I don't want him to get lost in becoming a playmaker when we've got so many great players to create chances. Mason Mount can do that job perfectly well.
He's one of those players I think you would guarantee picking your fantasy football team for this tournament because you know he's going to either be an assist provider or a goal scorer, one of the two, if not both. So I think he'll have a good tournament. It all hinges on him, really, because I think Dave alluded to it in a previous pod. If we don't have Harry Kane in the starting 11, the next best thing, which is Calvert-Lewin probably, is so far below his level that I think we'd struggle for goals from him, you know? It'd be the rest of the team.
Right. I think Calvert did all right yesterday, though. I actually thought he played quite well. Held the ball up well. Looks a good physical presence. He was unlucky to have one come off the bar, and he probably should have had the penalty as well. So
he's a good target man, I think. Dave, who are you saying as the sort of threats for England there from a goal scoring point of view? Do you think it still all rests on Kane, or do you think there's goals in the rest of the team?
I think Phil Foden, definitely. For Man City, how many goals he scored this season? 15 goals, is it? He can create something out of nothing. He makes those jinking runs. I think he can give us that extra cutting edge that we look like we need sometimes. We need so many times in the past, England have needed someone just to stand up, and we've been looking around, and it seems like the players are just looking around waiting for somebody to do it. And I feel like he's definitely the player for the big game. Another thing I was just thinking of as well, there's no excuses now. If we're desperate to make a sub, like we were in that game against Croatia, we were shouting out Southgate to make a sub, and he was looking on his bench, and he had Loftus-Cheek, and obviously a few of these other things. The amount of depth that's there now, like he's got no excuse. Like you just need like these decisions that he needs to make. You know, they need to be made decisively and quickly, because that cost us a game against Croatia. He didn't bring. He had fresh legs there on the bench. He didn't make the sub soon enough, and we paid the price.
Well, that's the thing. You've got to question if we, hopefully get through the group and we play the kind of key teams we think we're going to face on that route to the final. So potentially Germany, Portugal, was it Spain as well, maybe potentially as an opponent. France could be a final opponent if we get that far. All of these teams are going to be equal to, if not better than, I think, England. And that brings me on nicely to the next section. So, Myles, who are you tipping for the tournament? Looking at the groups, how do you think it's going to play out? And if England were to get through the tournament stages into the latter stages, how far can they go, mate? What do you think?
Oh, I feel like I'm going to be the enemy here. I have got England getting through their group. I've got them winning their group, and then I have them out at the next round. I feel like the draw is just not very favourable for us. And if we win our group, we're going to come up with one of the teams from the so-called group of death. And I had it as France. So I worry that might be where the journey stops for us, which would be a real shame. I wonder whether Southgate might think about that and try and aim for second a little bit instead.
I don't know if he can afford to sort of aim for second. I think he just needs to ride some momentum, to be fair. I think that's what will get as far as if we start positively and beat some teams quite convincingly, it might actually carry us further than we think,
Well, we kind of did both in the World Cup, if you remember. It was better for us to finish second in that group, and we lost to Belgium after absolutely smashing Panama, and we went on a very good run because we had a favourable run, and you picked up some momentum that way. So I get your point. Both work. I've got Italy winning it. I think they look fantastic. They're on the second longest unbeaten run of their history at the moment. They're unbeaten in 26, had a perfect qualifying campaign. And Roberto Mancini seems to have really got this side clicking now. They've got some fantastic young players coming through with a really good mix of some experience in there as well. If you think about their back line, they've still got Bonucci and Chiellini around, but then Donnarumma in goal. It's a fantastic blend, and they've got goals all over. You're looking at Insigne on one side and Federico Chiesa, who's just had a great first season at Juventus, on the other. And then with someone like Immobile or Belletti up front, they've got so much potential there. The only problem they might have is there's talk that Verratti isn't fit still, and he is really, really important to their midfield. But there are enough players that can step into that midfield as well and do a really, really good job. So I have them actually to win it. I think I had them against France in the final.
Okay. Well, that begs the question for me then. Why are more people not talking about Italy as potential winners of the tournament? Because the names you've just reeled off would arguably start in most teams in this competition. So why are Italy not being touted by others? Is it just because other teams are potentially stronger on paper? I personally think we haven't seen enough Serie A action to see these players firsthand. English fans are pretty ignorant to the Italian league at the minute. So I'm one of them. I don't know how good some of these players are. So elaborate for us. How good is this Italy team?
I think it's partly a recency bias as well, because Italy have come a really long way under Roberto Mancini. If you remember, they didn't qualify for the last major tournament, which seems mad to think about now. Four-time World Cup winners Italy not qualifying for a World Cup is bizarre. So I think that there is a bit of a sleeping giant element there where people are kind of forgotten about them, out of sight, out of mind. And everyone focuses in on France because they had such a good World Cup and obviously have a fantastic squad again now. They think about Germany because Germany are kind of ever present in that list. Portugal won the last Euros, and obviously we've seen Bruno Fernandes come through at Man United and Diogo Jota at Liverpool, and we see a lot of their players. I think you are right with the Italian players. There isn't as much exposure. There tends to be this long-lasting thinking of Italy as being a really defensive team and Serie A being very defensive. But the attacking players that Italy have on offer are absolutely brilliant. Some real direct, pacey, wide men and people who can just natural finishes. Immobile has always kind of struggled doing that for Italy compared to his return at Lazio. But you never know. A player with that kind of ability, a tournament group where they really, really shine, and obviously we didn't have the chance to see him at the last one. I look at someone like Chiesa and how much he's developed this season, playing with the likes of Ronaldo, and you think this could be a real breakthrough for him. There are young players that are missing. You know how much I love Zaniolo. He's not going to be there. So this Italy team have got a lot of potential. I do think that maybe there is just that idea of, because they haven't been on the kind of list of favourites for the last couple of years, that they're a bit more forgotten about. And all of a sudden we're talking more about Belgium. I'd take this Italy side over that Belgium side any day, to be honest. I'm for.
Yeah, I think so. Belgium are ranked number 1 in the world still, weirdly, because I don't think they've had an amazing run of results for a while. I've not seen them absolutely boss a game for a long, long time. So
they haven't got defence, Belgium.
And they've got Roberto Martinez as their manager, so
Oh yeah, and you trust Roberto Mancini is a good manager as well, and he's doing very, very well with Italy. And there are players that you would imagine doing well for Italy right now who can't even get in the squad. Moise Kean hasn't got a cooler.
Yeah,
and
decent season.
At PSG, he did all right, yeah. But that shows the wealth of talent that they've got up front as well. You talk about the options that England have. Italy have got a fair few as well. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how well they can develop as a side. They seem to have a really good atmosphere around the camp again. And you saw what that did when they had Conte in charge a few years ago at the Euros. And they actually did really well in that tournament too. So it's weird to call it Italy dark horses because it's Italy. But for me, I think that they're being overlooked.
They are a dark horse because, like you say, they've not been mentioned, but it's kind of an unknown quantity to a lot of fans. So that's exciting. I think they're in a similar position to England, that defensively they aren't that well. There's not that many players there who could cover the back four, the first choice back four, but their attacking talent is pretty decent, isn't it? Their forward play has always been up there, I think, in their most recent games where they've won 8 in a row now, albeit against pretty small teams.
With clean sheets.
And clean sheets galore, exactly. So they've looked pretty solid. I'm thinking about them against people like Belgium, because they could potentially come up against Belgium. They could come up against France before the route to the final. Can you still see them beating teams like that?
The path that I had them on was to play Ukraine in the next round, then Germany, Portugal, France. So if they do it, they'll have deserved to do it, and they'll have had to knock out everyone from the group of death, which is quite an interesting route. The way that the draw goes with this whole carrying through the best third place teams is really weird. Yeah. But I think they've got it in them. They're efficient and they'll know how to play those games. And we've seen Italy beat these teams in recent memory. It's just a case of whether this new group of players can adopt that spirit, whether Mancini can get them behind each other and get them working together. And I think that they can. They're on a 26-game unbeaten run. That's incredible. That's a fantastic run. They've only ever beaten that once, and they got to 30 games. If they do that again, then they're pretty far in the tournament already. So who knows?
But they haven't been tested a huge amount, though, have they? That's the thing. And if they come up against their first test and they compete and they're competitive and they actually win fairly convincingly, I think people will start talking about them in the same way that you do. But until then, kind of an unknown quantity, aren't they?
Turkey in the first game will be interesting. Turkey have got some really good players.
Great game.
Informed players as well. You think about Yilmaz, who's just won Ligue 1 playing up front, and he's definitely going to want to come in and have a bit of a swan song at this tournament, because I can't imagine he's going to have another one afterwards. True. So it will be an interesting group, that one, to be honest. And I think it's Wales, isn't it? So they're going to struggle to try and get out of that one.
Yeah, I've got Wales as one of the better performing third place teams. I don't think they'll qualify automatically in the top 2. So you've got them as bottom. Wow.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the thing. There's a lot of teams. You could interchange a few of the teams between third and fourth in these groups. The only one that's sort of the widest open is Group F, isn't it? With the group of death teams. So whoever comes first, second, and third in order there will dictate the path to the final for a lot of teams, won't it?
Yeah,
so that's exciting. Dave, moving on to you then. So Italy for Myles, who are you saying is your favourite? I think it was Portugal last time we spoke. Are you still sticking by them?
Yeah, I feel like they're going to be one of the favourites for the tournament. I feel as though they've got a manager, obviously, who knows how to win. He's won the Euros with them. He's won the Nations League with them. So they're a well-drilled unit. They're a difficult team to beat, and they've only got stronger over the last couple of years with the emergence of some younger players. Obviously, they've got those wing-back positions for better than they used to be. They've got Cancelo in there now, and young lad who's been playing at Sporting this season, Mendes, I think, he's been a revelation for them at left back. Not forgetting players in midfield, like obviously you've got Bruno Fernandes, there's Danilo Pereira, who's a really good player, good holding player. You know, the list is endless, really. You forget about how much attacking talent Portugal have as well. You speak of obviously Jota, Ronaldo, Bernardo Silva. So I think they'll have some high expectations for themselves, really. And I think that the country itself will be expecting them to put in stellar performance at this Euro. So I feel as though, to be honest, I think they'll be a good bet. Again, obviously they're in a difficult group. I fancy them to come through that though. I feel as though they will come through that one with Germany. I feel as though Spain will miss out. I just don't think.
Well, Spain is France.
Is it France, Portugal, and Germany? Is it? Yeah. Sorry, France and Portugal. I feel like as though Germany will miss out on that. Again, I think they're kind of a shadow of what they were a few years ago now, along with Spain as well. Spain are actually an interesting one. Speaking of it, they were meant to have was it the final warm-up game? Was it last night? It was meant to be last night or tonight. Yeah. And their players came down with, it was Busquets came down with corona, and the last warm-up games had to be off. So that's
they're under 21s are playing it apparently. Bizarre.
So that derailed their preparation massively. So
well, they've not got that experienced team, Spain, have they? So to have one of their most experienced players out is madness, isn't it? And I think Netherlands did the same with Jasper Cillessen, the main goalkeeper. He got a positive test for COVID-19 and there's just left him behind. That's crazy because their backup goalkeepers are not that great.
I could see that a lot, though, this tournament. That's what a pandemic tournament's going to be like, isn't it? Who knows? Kane could get it. And then all of a sudden, all this talk that we've had about England's frontline changes. It, without being boring and bringing it a bit of a sour note, it does seem mad that this tournament is happening right now, doesn't it? Particularly the way that it's happening, to be travelling across country quite as much as they are and games being played across multiple cities. I know we're looking like we're on a brighter side of the pandemic with vaccine rollout and stuff, but oh man, when you see stuff like that, like the whole Spain squad can't play a game. Scotland had 7 players out the other day because they were isolating. That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I think the fact that fans are going to be there as well kind of makes that anxiety all the more real, doesn't it? Fingers crossed. I mean, I imagine all the players will be tested regularly throughout the tournament, you know. They don't ever these days conform to COVID protocol. You see a goal and they celebrate it like they normally would. So I can't see them doing their part. And I've seen footage of the fans in stadiums, although there's not many there. How many's wearing a mask? Not that many. Everyone's shouting as loud as they can, which is amazing to hear, but they're not meant to. So yeah, from a pandemic point of view, we'll find out the effects of it, I think, a few weeks down the line, won't we, once the last ball's been kicked. But for my say anyway, my choice for the tournament is going to be France. And they are the favourites, I think, at the moment, almost joint with England. And for me, it's their defence. They are so well covered in defence. And their first choice pairing at the minute, I think, is Kimpembe and Varane. And they arguably aren't even the best two. You could pick a number of centre-backs, couldn't you, really? But that's their first 2 centre-backs. And I think beyond that, their attacking talent is fantastic as well. For me, seeing Karim Benzema in the team again is brilliant. I think he probably will change the way they play completely because he's such a focal point for Real Madrid. And I think it'd be similar for France. They've got Dembele coming back to some kind of form as well. He scored against Wales at in the friendlies recently, didn't he? So he looks like he could be a threat again. Obviously, Mbappe is going to steal the show. I think he'll have an amazing tournament again, like he did at the World Cup. And he's going to prove outright that he's the best young player in the world, the best potential player outright in the world at the minute. So, yeah, I think France are exciting.
Did you not watch the PSG Man City game and think that some of the attitude that we saw towards the end of the game from PSG could translate into this France team? I get the feeling, and I know that a lot of those players that we saw kind of getting fiery were more of the South American players, but Kimpembe looked like he'd lost his head by the end of that game. Mbappe's got a bit of a strop in these days, and I do wonder whether that front three works, because all of a sudden, like you're right, Benzema's a focal point. He's not Giroud, who will happily just be there to hold the ball up, play it along, and let Mbappe take the show. How do you fit Benzema, Griezmann, and Mbappe in the same forward line and not kind of have some sort of meltdown there? But bear in mind why Benzema's not been playing for France over the last few years. That seems like a camp harmony might be their downfall with France. I think they'll get to the final.
I think they'll be thrilled to see him in the squad. I really do. I think compared to the 2018 team, he enhances that. You know, if he was part of the 2018 team, I think he would have enhanced them then. I just think they've got too much in every position. I really do. I can't find much weakness. I don't really think Griezmann's that great. I've not seen Barcelona shine with him in the starting lineup. I don't think he's the best player in his position in the world, or even in the France team. I think there's better players than him. Their midfield is great. They've got an N'Golo Kante that's had such an incredible season. Pogba alongside him potentially. I think they are a dangerous team. They're world champions for a reason, and a lot of their players are coming towards like peak age now. So for me, I can't look beyond them. I think they batter England. I really do.
What about Lloris? I feel like Lloris might be their weak point these days.
Possible liability, yeah, but they've got a couple of half decent backup goalkeepers as well.
Yeah,
but he'll stick with Lloris though. That's the thing. The only question mark really in terms of weaknesses is Didier Deschamps. He's not that great a coach. I don't rate him as good as Gareth Southgate is to England. He's just not proving enough for me to take a team like France forward. He's not Roberto Martinez bad, but he's not great either. So.
World Cup winner.
World Cup winner, yeah, as a player and as a coach as well, which is, you know, you can't scoff at that. But if France had a Zidane in charge, I think that's probably going to end up the case eventually. Probably sooner rather than later, if France don't reach the final at the very least, then we'll see a different France set up altogether.
I think you're right there, Mark, about that front line. I feel as though Mbappe in particular, he needs space in behind to get in at teams. And we saw in the Champions League, he didn't have that space in behind. He was almost anonymous, like at times. So I feel people, you know, teams are going to be clued up to how to play France, and it's just obviously whether, you know, they can hold out against the many talented players that they have.
Yeah.
I feel as though there will be a team that can be hard to be got at the back. We've seen them have mentality issues with Kimpembe. He got sent off towards the end of the season for PSG. He's been a bit rash in the past as well. So I feel as though there are opportunities for teams to get at them. It's just whether they can execute them.
I wouldn't pick Kimpembe though, but he does. He picks Lloris and Kimpembe, and I wouldn't start either of them. That's the thing. So many other options they could pick. Better options.
Too many options at the back. It's ridiculous. If you look at their under-21 squad, it's better than most people's squad that they're taking to this tournament. But Varane as well. Varane's not had the best season of his career either, and yet those two will be his first two choices at centre back. I'm saying all this just to be devil's advocate. To be honest, I had France getting to the final when I did it. I think they will come second in their group. I think Portugal will win that group, but then their path through afterwards, I think, is a bit simpler. But I do think it means they knock England out in the round of 16. Sadly.
Yeah, I think that's who will thwart England. To be fair, in the same sort of draw as you. If it ends up like that, I don't think England will get past them. Where does that leave Germany, though? Interestingly, because it's obviously Joachim Löw's last tournament as Germany coach. They've got a talented squad, to be fair. They've not got a bad team at all, but I don't hear many people talking about them as favourites, which is rare for Germany. Why is that?
I think he's kind of lost that German side, hasn't he? They don't seem very together. It's odd to have given him this tournament, to be honest. True. Because things didn't go very well at the World Cup. He's still kind of unsettled. He told Muller and Hummels they were never going to play again for Germany, and now has backtracked and gone, actually, could quite do with you now. They've got some very good players, obviously, but we've seen with the spine of that team that it's quite sporadic. If you think about them relying on the likes of Werner, you know, Werner's a fantastic footballer, I think, but you don't know that he's going to score goals. Same can be said for Havertz. they'll probably start Rudiger at the back, and he's obviously come off good form with Chelsea. And then obviously then they've got this idea of Bayern players around them that looks like a great setup. But Bayern, without Lewandowski, would they be the side that they are? And they didn't get through the Champions League without Lewandowski. So those German players on their own with different talent around them, I don't think they inspire as much confidence as they would have before. I've got them going out of the quarters to Italy.
Okay.
So we'll see.
I'll bring up my predictions actually. So this is what I think the course of the draw will look like, but it all depends on the makeup of, I think the group of death will dictate a lot of the team's route to the final. Because if, for example, France finish below Portugal or Germany surprises and finish above both of them, it changes who plays who. So I still think France will win it. I've optimistically said England will get to the final. But do you know what? Looking at it now, I don't even think they get past Portugal. What I've seen in the last 2 games, I'm not confident they get past this.
They don't want to win the group.
No, they really don't, do they? I think if they make the draw slightly more favourable, but that looks terrifying for Gareth Southgate, doesn't it?
To be fair, both sides of those draws, there's teams you'd want to avoid, isn't there? That's just what tournament football is like. If you want to win a tournament, you got to be good, I guess. So if England are as good as we think they are, and we say they are, then bring on Belgium, Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany. We'll batter them all.
Who's in the best format of all of these teams then for you? I mean, Italy you've already mentioned, but is anyone going into this with like loads of confidence, do you think?
Maybe France again because of the World Cup. Maybe Portugal because of the last Euros. There's still quite a few players from that cycle around, but everyone's changed so much since that. That's the other thing. This is an extra year on from when it should have been. So all of a sudden we're 3 years away from France winning the World Cup rather than 2. I think we talked about this last time. That is going to be a difference. We were talking about last time whether Harry Kane and Rashford were going to be fit for England going into this. Now, all of a sudden, we've got this wealth of talent. So different teams are going to be in different moments. England's form's not too bad, I guess. We're getting through games. We're not looking necessarily as inspiring as we would like, but we're getting jobs done. But to me, like I said, the informed team is Italy. They're the ones I'd be watching.
Yeah. Well, I'm pumped anyway. I think on that note, that's the Euros well and truly sort of set out in my mind. I think when you see the draw like that, like an old school wall chart like you used to have in your bedroom as a kid, it does make you really excited, doesn't it? So can't wait to see how it plays out. I am cautiously optimistic about England's chances. Obviously, I put them through to get to the final on there, but on hindsight, that looks super optimistic even for me. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
What do you think? Quick one. What do you reckon about if Southgate loses his job after the tournament, for instance? Who would you fancy stepping in?
To replace Southgate?
Be quiet. Don't answer that question.
You know my answer. I think Dean Smith's the shoe-in for it. He's the best English manager we've got, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know what?
He really is.
I think Steven Gerrard will be earmarked for it, you know.
Really? Too early.
It is too early. I'd kill his career before it even started.
Yeah, too early.
Yeah. I think that proves the point. There's not much choice beyond Gareth Southgate, is there, at the minute for the England national job?
Southgate will stay for a while now.
Well, I think he said himself that if he doesn't get beyond the quarterfinals, it would be a failure. Semi-finals is the minimum. So if that was to be the case and they didn't get that far, then what?
He said he's got to deliver, so he's put pressure on himself now. You know.
Yeah. Probably knows he's untouchable.
That's what you want to hear, but it'll be here at least until after the next World Cup, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's next year, isn't it?
Well, it's next winter, isn't it? Of course it is. And do you know, you're talking about France winning the World Cup 3 years ago now. It's 5 years since Portugal won the Euros, which is even crazier.
FIFA are talking about moving the World Cup to every 2 years now as well.
FIFA don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, that's mental. That's just money, isn't it? That's the Super League all over again.
That's going to be that way, then it's going to be Euros 1 year, World Cup the next year.
They might scrap the Euros. They might scrap the Euros.
Well, that's a fight for them in UEFA, isn't it? Because that's not going to happen either. Anyway, guys, I'm going to plug our Discord first. If you want to join the conversation, please do join the Discord below, because there's only a few of us in there at the minute. It'd be nice for you guys to get involved as well if anyone's watching this. But in the meantime, thank you for your time again, guys. Pleasure as always. We'll join you again next week as we creep closer and closer to the Euros. In fact, next time we talk, it will be after the first wave of matches, wouldn't it?
That's mad, isn't it?
Is that right? There it is. It's literally round the corner now, isn't it?
Well, what's
Like,
it's the 7th today? First game's the 11th. So it won't be the whole first round, but
yeah,
some football to talk about again.
Loads to talk about. Cannot wait. Anyway, guys, enjoy. I'll speak to you soon and take care. Thank you.